So I know I'm supposed to be working on the Nash V-Trigger 2 video, and I have been, it's just not done yet. But I'm still in the process of learning Menat as well, and in the middle of my combo practice the other day, I noticed something odd. See if you can spot it. Did you catch it? Let's try another one. Okay, that second one was a bit unfair. It's easier to spot in the first combo, but this led me on a bit of a funny, frantic day of study to figure it out. What I noticed in the first clip was my orbs in V-Trigger 1 not affecting my combo's scaling. For those unaware, scaling is the system that limits combo damage the longer they go on. Combos are the only way to get guaranteed damage outside of punishes, and you want all of your punishes to be damaging combos. How scaling works depends on the game you're playing, so for this video we'll obviously only need to know how it works for Street Fighter V. In SF5 there are two forms of scaling, combo scaling and gut scaling. Obviously my issue has to do with combo scaling, but we'll cover gut scaling as well while we're at it. Since gut scaling is a bit trickier to explain and less relevant in many situations, we'll cover it first, but it is interesting how lack of understanding on how gut scaling works leads some players to think that some supers are stronger, weaker, or just as good as others, but we'll provide a good example of this later. Gut scaling is a mechanic that reduces damage you take the lower your health gets at certain thresholds. At 50%, you take 5% less damage until you get to 30%, where you start taking 10% less damage, and finally at 15%, you take 25% less damage. The last jump is the most significant. What this effectively means is every character has more health than their stats suggest due to the damage reduction effectively netting them more health. For a quick reference, here is a chart to see how much health characters actually have depending on their base health and after factoring gut scaling, assuming my math is correct, that is. But as for the example I mentioned, I would like to pose a question. Who has the stronger critical art, Karen or Ken? If you watch a lot of tournament footage, you'll swear it's Karen, as she is more represented and her critical art leads to a lot of will it kill moments where it more often than not does. If you looked it up, you will tell me that they deal the same damage. Both answers are technically correct because the answer depends on the target's life bar and what level of gut scaling they're at, because gut scaling is dynamic and is readjusting itself at all times. This means critical arts like Ken's that spread their damage a little more evenly throughout the animation are more likely to trigger gut scaling thresholds before the final hit, which deals the most damage, whereas characters like Karen, who have critical arts consisting of a couple weak hits before delivering a huge hit, are less likely to trigger these thresholds and in some cases bypass them completely. For this example, I'm going to use Bison as my opponent, as he has 1,000 health, which is a nice round number we can manipulate easily. And we're going to deal 430 unscaled damage to him. This will put him at 570 remaining health, 57% of his total. From here, I'm going to use raw critical art with both Ken and Karen and check the damage afterwards. I highly doubt you can tell the difference from those examples on a single viewing, so I've overlaid them so you can see the difference. If you were only watching the attack data, you would have noticed Ken's critical art dealt 325 versus Karen's 340. So two moves of equal strength result in different totals in an identical situation because of how the moves distribute their damage. This means that the best supers for gut scaling have fewer hits, like Boxer's Gigaton Blow, or have an enormous amount of weak hits that don't round down easily. If you want an easy way to see gut scaling at work, just perform your max damage combo on Akuma and then do the same to Abigail. As you can see, the same combo produced a higher total damage versus Abigail, but it dealt a higher percentage of Akuma's total health. With that out of the way, let's get to the much simpler and more relevant combo scaling. Combo scaling simply reduces the damage you get for each successive attack in a combo. Note that I said attack and not hit, so attacks that hit multiple times do not get scaled more than attacks that only hit once. Combo scaling starts on the second attack of your combo, which will deal 90% of its normal damage, and each attack after gets another 10% damage reduction applied to it until you reach 10%, which is the minimum scaling. This heavily incentivizes you not to spend resources on heavily scaled combos. There are some other factors, however. As far as scaling is concerned, it only counts as an attack if it hits the opponent, so command dashes in your combos like Karen Tinko into Orochi or Boxer's VS1 2-bar combos do not apply additional scaling. However, some attacks have additional scaling applied if you use any potential follow-ups they have. I was going to use Rashid's spinning mixer to demonstrate this, but I forgot it was actually buffed in Arcade Edition to no longer scale when mashed. But Boxer and Guile VT1 still work this way. The rule of thumb is that typically, even if it's technically part of the same attack, if you're hitting another button for it, then it will cause more scaling, although obviously this is a case-by-case basis. The next caveat for combo scaling is VT activation scaling. If you activate mid-combo, you receive an additional 20% scaling. This was a universal change in Season 3, and the effects are still felt today. Characters like Boxer, Guile, and Menat were melting life bars with 70% activation conversions, and this nerf helped minimize those situations. When you activate mid-combo, you want to get as much damage as you can, obviously, but preferably not using any meter or V-timer on the scaled combo unless you can get the kill. Note that Nash is exempt from this additional activation scaling. I'm fairly certain that he's the only one, but if not, please correct me in the comments. Also, note that this additional VT activation scaling even applies to stun combos that you raw activate without canceling anything. Note that crush counters are similar to VT activations in terms of scaling, but only receive 10% additional scaling instead of 20%. And the final caveat for combo scaling is critical arts. As you can tell from the several examples in this video, the minimum combo scaling for critical arts is 50%. Although if you want to be hyper technical, due to gut scaling, sometimes you see them lower. I believe 47% is the minimum, but I have no hard proof of that. It's just the lowest number I've seen. So now that we have a firm grasp on how combo scaling works, why was my first combo not being scaled? I spent the better part of a day trying to figure this out. At one point I theorized that maybe her orbs scale less on juggled opponents, like some sort of reverse Tekken scaling, but that was easy to disprove. Then I suspected that they may scale differently based on what state the opponent is in when the first orb connects, such as if the first orb starts the combo or if they are airborne or whatnot. But at the end of the day, the answer was simple, and I was overthinking it. Remember when I said, rule of thumb, if it requires additional inputs, it applies more scaling, but this is a case-by-case deal? Well, this is one of those exceptions. I'm honestly surprised I haven't seen this mentioned in any of the several Menat guides I watched when I decided to pick up the character. But when Menat uses her VT1, only the first orb in that combo is scaled and the rest do not apply further scaling. So with that in mind, let's watch the combo again. Combo starts with a crush counter, so the next hit will be scaled an additional 10%, so a total of 80% scaling. The first orb connects and everything's going according to plan, we're at 80% scaling. Heavy Soul Sphere connects, we're at 70% scaling. Second orb connects, but we're still at 70% scaling. This is the first oddity in the combo. Soul Spark knocks us down to 60% scaling, business as usual. Third orb connects, still at 60%. Fourth orb connects, still at 60%. Soul Spark finally puts us down to 50. Fifth orb, still at 50%. Final orb, still at 50%. Soul Spark down to 40%. And finally, Critical Art goes up to 50% due to minimum Critical Art scaling. And that's the video. I was certain that each orb would apply its own scaling because they technically require additional inputs, but that's the dangers in assuming. Either way, I thought this would make a great video on scaling and how this information can help you solve problems and find what's optimal for your character. If you think I missed something or presented something incorrectly, please let me know in the comments, and if you learned something new, please let me know that as well. And consider subscribing if you enjoy my content. Currently, over 80% of my viewers are not subscribed, and it would mean a lot if you supported the channel, but only if you genuinely enjoy the content. Either way, thanks for watching, and look out for the Nash V Trigger 2 video.